It's Friday. Hello and welcome to it. You're watching eNews Direct. I'm Tutuzile Ramela. Here are the stories we're tracking for you this evening. It's exactly a week since the accident at Lily Mine, and the families of those trapped are becoming increasingly desperate. Mixed reaction to President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address. The opposition saying he failed to show decisiveness. Remember, you can have a say on any of our stories. Do find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNews Direct. Our hashtags this evening, Lily Mine and Sona Reaction. And conditions have become increasingly dangerous at Lily Mine in Barberton, slowing down rescue operations. Exactly 1 week ago, a container in which 3 people were working dropped into a sinkhole. The workers are still trapped underground without food or water. Signs of life have not been detected since Tuesday.
These are the first visuals from the sinkhole site. Rescuers have been working here 24 hours a day since Friday, trying to access the lamp room where the trapped miners are. The families of Preti Kambule, Yvonne Mnisi and Solomon Nyender are becoming increasingly desperate. The rescuers are also taking strain.
The machines that we're using are being pushed to the limit. Obviously everybody's desperate, and so everybody's really trying hard, but the conditions are hot and the machines overheat and all those kind of things. So we have to be very careful, because the machines are really the only success to the rescue mission. We can't let the machines fail, otherwise we really won't have anything.
Mine management says it has not changed the status of the operation from rescue to recovery.
It's a decision that I really don't want to make. As far as we're concerned, it's still a rescue. I think the terminology of recovery is not just about the physiology of the people in the container. It will come dependent on the resources we've got, whether the resources are being strained, and there will come a time when all of those factors may lead us to decide that we're into a different phase.
Earlier, a group led by COSATU arrived at the site, saying they were there to support the families of those trapped. But their presence led to scuffles when T-shirts they were distributing ran out.
Uninspired. That's how President Jacob Zuma's speech has left opposition parties. They say while he did touch on key areas of concern, he failed to show strong leadership where it matters most. But some say Zuma did address business sector concerns.
It's one of the most watched political events of the year. But once again, the antics inside the chamber attracted more attention than the actual speech.
He broke his oath of office.
After COPE and the EFF stormed out, the president delivered his address, which opposition parties found disappointing. Zuma was slammed for failing to provide a decisive plan to avert a recession, ratings downgrade, and job losses.
You can't just simply be cutting food and travel. We should have been cutting cabinet so that we can take a bigger chunk of that money to invest into the economy.
Drought, for example, it's so serious. He acknowledged the seriousness, and I didn't see any measures, special measures, how we're going to keep small and big farmers on the land as far as that's concerned.
Government was hoping that by 2019 we would have achieved the 5% growth, but he confessed that we will not do so. So quite clearly, it is obvious that we're in dire straits.
The speech did manage to address some of the business sector's concerns.
Mining received a lot of attention, agriculture, the formation of agri-parks, the question of land.
I think probably this is the most business-friendly State of the Nation speech that President Zuma has ever given.
The overwhelming response from opposition MPs is that the president missed an opportunity to show leadership where it matters most. Narissa Subramani, Johannesburg.
And staying on the President's State of the Nation address, against a backdrop of stagnant growth, a widening deficit and policy uncertainty, economists are not convinced Zuma's speech lived up to investor expectations.
Our reality right now is that global growth still remains muted. Financial markets have become volatile. Currencies of emerging markets have become weak.
While President Jacob Zuma acknowledged the country's challenges, economists are concerned that the lack of detail in his speeches gives the impression it's business as usual in an economy in need of resurgence.
I don't think that it's done an enormous amount of damage, but I don't think it's also done us any favors in terms of persuading investors and businessmen that South Africa's declining growth prospects are about to turn.
South Africa also faces a possible credit downgrade that would see its investment rating hit junk status. This month, the president met with corporate CEOs to thrash out how government and business can work together to soothe investors. But in the speech, no solid growth plan was forthcoming.
These are policy measures, these are ideas. What are we doing in very specific terms in terms of allocating money, measuring output and measuring success, so that we can say in the next year, in terms of this, we will do A, B, C, and D, which we think will deliver A, B, C, and D. That detail is missing. I think people are starting to get a bit agitated.
Analysts say government will have to work much harder on deliverables in order to impress investors. And now it's up to Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan to add meat to South Africa's pitch to ratings agencies and investors. Mateo Khwaripe, Johannesburg.
The death of a pastor has led to violence in a rural KwaZulu-Natal community. Juzi Dlamini was allegedly assaulted during a land dispute last week and found dead 3 days later. Some residents who believe his neighbors may have been involved in Dlamini's death torched 2 houses in revenge.
The Dlamini family is preparing to bury the head of their household. Pastor Juzi Dlamini was found dead last week, hanging from the roof of a shack.
He left here on Tuesday for Ixhopo, and he never came back.
But his family believes there may have been foul play. The pastor had been involved in a land dispute with his neighbors only days before. They'd apparently taken issue with the location of Dlamini's church, saying it was on their land. The local Induna intervened, but matters came to a head.
When he was coming back from the Induna, he met the neighbor and his sisters. They threw stones at him and beat him up. Someone came to me saying, "They're killing Dlamini."
Angry members of the community and the church, believing Dlamini's neighbors may have played a role in his death, have torched 2 houses. The neighbors have since fled. Police say they're keeping an eye on this community to prevent any further violence. The Department of Social Development has appealed to the families to remain calm while investigations continue. Desan Tathia, Ndwebu, KwaZulu-Natal.
The Supreme Court of Appeal has started hearing the state's appeal of the High Court order to arrest Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir. The state wants the SCA to overturn a ruling that the government's failure to arrest Bashir last June was inconsistent with its constitutional duties. It maintains that as a head of state, Bashir had immunity from arrest despite a warrant from the International Criminal Court. But the South African Litigation Centre told the court the ICC Act makes it clear that heads of state are not immune from prosecution for crimes against humanity. Quick look at world news now, and the United Nations hopes to start delivering aid to some besieged areas in Syria within the next 24 hours. The aid plan forms part of an agreement by world powers meeting in Munich. They are set to push for a cessation of hostilities in a week's time. The Syrian government has not yet responded, though. A key rebel coalition welcomed the announcement. And the president of South Sudan has appointed his longtime political rival as vice president. It's part of a peace deal aimed at ending more than 2 years of war. The conflict erupted in December 2013. That's after President Salva Kiir accused Riek Machar of plotting a coup. The world's youngest country, South Sudan, split from the north in 2011. Let's see what's happening on social media. Gareth Edwards, it's Friday. What do you have for us?
Right, one fun hashtag for you, but a rather serious scenario to look at. Attention is on the bull ring today as South Africa take on the English. The Proteas sporting pink in support of World Cancer Day, which, to be fair, was back on the 4th of February, but the Wanderers cricket ground as well doing an amazing job in decking out the grounds appropriately as well. So the Proteas wearing pink at the moment. And then this man, Omar al-Bashir, also trending today. Governments challenging a court finding that it acted unconstitutionally in failing to arrest the Sudanese president. This was in June last year. Now, if you missed that story earlier, to remind you, judgment has now been reserved. And we go back to last night. Very simple poll on our Twitter account we're asking you this evening. Were you happy with the SONA 2016 speech? So far, 10% of you saying yes, and an overwhelming 90% saying no. You can go across to eNews Direct on Twitter and go and vote. And now, while you're there as well, don't forget, go and take a look at the eNews Direct Bulletin. If you've missed it, all you have to do is go directly to the website, enca.com/direct, or also you can find the link to that on our Twitter account.
Welcome back. Money Matters now, and the key sectors of manufacturing and mining are experiencing negative growth. A drop in commodity prices and less demand for products like steel means growth prospects are dim. Stats SA says in the last quarter of 2015, mining production decreased by 0.3% year on year. Total manufacturing production showed zero growth compared to 2014. Now, the two sectors combined contribute 20% to the economy. The mining sector faces wage negotiations this year, something that crippled production 3 years ago. If the low output persists, jobs could be on the line. And with that, let's see how the markets performed today. Let's check in now with the Weather Center.
Welcome to the Weather Center. Here's a quick summary of what the weather has in store for your Saturday across South Africa. It's going to be mostly foggy and cloudy along much of the west coast with a chance of light rain as we go towards the southwest coastline and part of the south coast. Afternoon thunder showers are forecast for the eastern parts of the Western Cape, extending into the Eastern Cape and much of eastern South Africa, where scattered thunderstorms are possible for the eastern areas of the Free State and the western parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Heatwave conditions are set to persist this Saturday for Gauteng, the western parts of Limpopo and the easternmost areas of the northwest. It's going to be mostly sunny and hot for the western interior, where a high fire danger warning is in place for the eastern parts of the Northern Cape. Here's a closer look at the weather in KwaZulu-Natal. Thunderstorms are forecast for much of the province. It's going to be dry for Durban, Richards Bay and Ulundi, where a sizzling 39 is forecast for the top temperature. It's going to be unsettled across much of the Eastern Cape. Temperatures in the mid to upper 20s along the coast, but it's going to be hotter as we go towards the northern sections. Light rain and drizzle is forecast from Cape Town through Hermanus into the south coast. Thunder showers around Oudtshoorn and Beaufort West. Cape Town will peak at around 25 degrees. It's going to be hot for the eastern parts of the Northern Cape, with possible showers from Kimberley through DR down into Colesberg. We are also going to see thunder showers across much of the Free State, Welkom and Bloemfontein, peaking at 36 degrees. It's also going to be unsettled for the northwest, a hot 37 for the high in Rustenburg. Thunder showers are going to persist across much of Limpopo. It's going to be sizzling hot for Messina and Palabora, both reaching highs of around 40 degrees. We are going to stay with unsettled weather across the Mpumalanga Highveld. Dry, however, from Mbombela with a high of around 35. Thunder showers will continue for Gauteng. Pretoria warms up to 36 degrees. Drizzly weather is forecast on Sunday for Cape Town. It's going to stay stormy for the eastern areas, and on Monday we are expecting thunder showers for the central and eastern parts of the country and a bit of drizzle for Cape Town.
Thank you, Joel. After the break, a short video from local hip-hop artist Ricky Rick to say thank you to his loyal fans. One of the unofficial elements of hip-hop is video art, and local rapper Ricardo Mercado, aka Ricky Rick, is taking it to a whole new level.
Good for the rap game. He's produced a short film thanking his fans and showing off his passion for the visual arts. The 10-minute offering entitled Exodus is the last elements of his debut album.
Ricky Rick, aka Boss Zonke, real name Ricardo Mercado, is wrapping up his platinum-selling debut album, Family Values, with this. A fusion of film and music titled Exodus.
It was dope to watch some new product. The music is such a beautiful piece of art that's going to be there forever. The visuals should also do the same.
The 9-minute piece is presented in 3 chapters, showing off Rick's artistic side.
In the first chapter, it's about, it's about overcoming, violence at home. The second part of the story, I wanted to tell a story about rising above gang violence, so through a means of your art. The third part was basically just being anointed to continue telling the story.
Yeah. What are your first reactions of it?
It's art. It's art on an upper level, It's art on a...
It will change the game because now hip-hop is not just about the playing.
I was like, scene 1 really got me.
He's like a guy who is brave enough and like dares to go left and everybody's going right.
Couple, don't cry, please. No, it's fine. Hold. Sorry, guys.
Moment.
It happens.
We'll leave them to it. It's a moment.
Okay.
They need it.
Okay.
Nontobeko Spisi, Maboneng, Johannesburg.
Here's a reminder of the day's top stories before we say goodbye. It's exactly a week since the accident at Lily Mine, and the families of those trapped are becoming increasingly desperate. Mixed reaction to President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address, the opposition saying he failed to show decisiveness. And that's a wrap from the eNews Direct team.
It is. We're on a 72-hour break. Up next, Rhythm City.
Indeed. To share your views, you can send us an email to enewsdirect@etv.co.za.
Or just talk to us on Twitter and Facebook, and the handle that you need at eNews Direct.
Until Monday night, have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.